Hello, everyone, and thank you for attending the panel. I will try to do as good a job as Dr. Anis. I don't know if I can be as animated, but we'll definitely have a compelling conversation. And I think their topic is also a very good segue into what we're discussing today, the idea about investment and are we in a dot-com bubble or not? The dot-com bubble was a stock market bubble that was caused by overhype, overestimation, where a lot of capital was put into something that was believed to be the future. A lot of dot-com companies were heavily invested in. And of course, it was outrageous overvaluations, supported by media frenzy, and an abundance of capital to support that, which saw stock prices rise. I believe the NASDAQ Composite Index rose about 582% from January 1995 to March 2000, according to Corporate Finance Institute. And the bursting of the bubble was caused by massive sell-offs, layoffs in the technology sector, with losses estimated up to 5 trillion. And once that started, there was intense panic about where these assets are going. Are they going to develop? Is this and as you can tell, 5 trillion in losses is immense, and that was a sign that there was overhype. And we're trying to figure out if we are in the same position now when it comes to AI. World AI investment started at around 3 billion. I mean, of course, it's very difficult to say what is AI in terms of investment. That's something I'm hoping we're going to elaborate on a little bit later. It started at about 3 billion in 2013, according to the Stanford Institute for Human-Centered Artificial Intelligence and Goldman Sachs, and currently is about at 91 billion in 2022, expected to hit 158 billion by 2025. So with that background, and understanding where investment is in the AI space at the moment, I'll turn to our panelists to ask them, are we in an AI bubble at the moment with investment? Who'd like to start taking that question? Please go ahead.
Yeah, sure. Great panel, thanks. Look, I don't think we're even close. I just joined Goldman Sachs in the early stages of the dot-com bubble. In 2 years, they were doubling the number of employees. There was this enormous excitement. Those of you that were around at the time remember every day just deals were just walking through the door. You just couldn't staff enough deals. And literally the most junior analyst to the senior most person was working on 5 to 10 different things all at once. It was just a frenzy of deals to do, things to learn. No one could figure out what the valuation should be. You remember we were thinking about eyeballs, the smell test. It really didn't matter. Whatever it was, if you backed it, you'd make money. It was almost like that until it all crashed. Mm. If I look at the numbers, though, VC&P at that time invested about $200 billion to $300 billion. The numbers are difficult to pin down, but something like that. We've invested that much also in AI. Multiples about the same. So multiples went up to about 100. Compared to the norm of more mundane tech and other industries that were about 20 to 30. And we're at roughly the same place, but this has just begun. And I think we're much maturer, and if you remember that time, there was a general hype about the world transforming. And we're in a much more depressive time where the world feels like it's falling apart, right? So it doesn't actually feel like that time at all. It feels like a much more measured time, when in fact just about everything is about to change. Just about everything. I can't think of anything in my investing time that will stay the same.
Mm-mm.
I think one other characteristic of AI is that we're in lack of talent, and we need to build this pipeline of talent. I mean, AI actually it's a toolbox. It's a technology that is made for optimization, automation, efficiency. And I think we are building this talent, this pipeline of talent as we speak. But it takes time. It takes quite a lot of time to bring all this talent on the market.
And do you feel that there is that overinvestment in it at the moment in terms of AI and whatever aspect of AI, like in the talent, in the infrastructure? Do you feel like there's an overinvestment in this area given the hype, or to be considered a dot-com bubble, or do you feel we haven't reached that point yet?
Well, if we look at the figures, I mean, year on year, quarter on quarter, we have in Q1 2023 experienced the first plunge of AI investment. I mean, we're at 5.4 billion. So multiplied by 4, we are going to be around perhaps 20 billion this year. You were talking about 91 billion last year. So I think it has been a slowdown. I think people have understood that it's a technology that is quite sophisticated, that requires quite a lot of expertise. Obviously, generative AI has taken the biggest part of the investment. I mean, we have 5 unicorns this year, and 3 are in generative AI. So generative AI is obviously a big interest for the investment community. But there are plenty of other applications of AI because it's going to be, as Ketan was saying, completely ubiquitous.
And actually, I wanted to mention generative AI, as you just did, which, I mean, as everybody knows, is what powers ChatGPT. It's that concept, and the idea, Ketan, when you were saying about like, is there fear or not? I do believe there is fear around generative AI. There were petitions saying that we should that the world should regulate this, and that's where I get the same sentiment in terms of hype, in terms of, I mean, there's good fear and there's bad fear. It seems like around it. Manoj, what do you think in terms of, is this is this contributing to a bubble that we're in, or are we not there yet? Is just the conversation around it?
Sure. Thank you very, very much. Firstly, I'd like to say thank you to you all for the gift of your time. This is a very tough spot because I'm probably 90 minutes away from your glass of wine. So I'm just sort of trying to calibrate all of that. But I would also like to thank Raha, Zach, the entire AIM Summit team for doing a phenomenal job. I think having everyone sitting here today is a great thing. So I'm going to ask the audience a question, and it's about the definition of AI. I view it as augmented intelligence, not artificial intelligence. And I just am curious here to see who views it as 100% artificial. If I could see a show of hands here, just so that I know how people feel. That do you see it as 100% artificial, or do you see it as a hybrid human-like intelligence? So I assume I've just seen one hand, but I think that what is very, very clear is that hybrid is what has generated the generative AI. The application of it still requires a human touch. And case in point, we still have a strike going on in the US. Hollywood is still on strike. The Screen Actors Guild is still on strike. Why? Because they're not able to agree with the studios how to monetize the AI that is generated from a particular film. The studios want it to be launched into a series. The talent wants it to be for a specific movie. So therefore, with major dislocation that's currently happening, and this is a use case, a live case, you can see AI going wrong, all right? People should be paid for their likeness if a studio chooses to monetize them further. So I think AI regulation, AI monitoring, ethics is going to come in. I think right now, with everything we're seeing globally, AI is playing a role in global defense. How do you monitor that? There has to be the right guidelines in place, guardrails, to ensure that we are living in a world which AI is going to be part of, and we have to learn to manage it well.
I'd like to go into more specifics on that a bit later. That actually supports another question I have later on. But right now, in terms of bubble or not, do you think that we are in a bubble given
No,
the AI technology?
I don't. I think that today bubbles are short-term in nature. I think AI is foundational, and I think anyone who tells me that AI is a bubble, I disagree. I think it's the application of augmented intelligence. It's a hybrid human machine that is going to be here and that is going to power everything for generations. And it's about, so I don't think this is a hype. factor. I think this is part of the foundation economy and something that we just have to learn to deal with.
So it's not overinvestment, it's
No.
well-placed investment in the right
Absolutely.
places. So, and this is what I want to expand actually to what is actually AI? You gave a very sector-specific example and case example, but when we're saying AI, what are we talking about? Because to me, when we were saying about the dot-com bubble, investing in dot-com in online companies, that's everything today. That's like saying, I want to invest in the internet. So when you say investing in AI, the rise of AI, as the title of the panel is, what are we speaking of specifically? Is it only generative AI? Is it a certain aspect of it in particular? Who'd like to take that one?
Well, I think, I have another hat. I'm actually in charge of a Center of Excellence for Artificial Intelligence for Sorbonne in Abu Dhabi. So I think we need to not forget that AI is a group of technique. It's a toolbox of how to analyze data. And as data is becoming ubiquitous and we're collecting data on everything because we are digitalizing everything, now AI has quite a lot of data to ingest and to draw insight from. And so therefore, but at the end of the day, it's only a toolkit and only methods to analyze a big set of data. And I think, it's also nourishing the public imagination because we talk about artificial intelligence, but the frame is set by a human. That means that in any algorithm, you have the perspective of the world that is the one from the developers, the one that have developed the algorithm. And I think we need to not forget that, to be able to chase all the bias in the algorithm. I think many stories about that. And also to continue to monitor the algorithm once they are in full production. So it's 3 stages, basically, in the data that you feed the algorithm with. This data needs to be secured. It needs to be data integrity is a big topic. And then the development of the algorithm is about the perspective of the team that is developing the algorithm. So this perspective is obviously one perspective, but is not the perspective of the world, and then monitoring the algorithm once it is in production because it's learning from its iteration, and obviously it can be some tricks, and it can create things that we don't really want to create. And that's why I completely join what Manoj is saying, that it's this hybrid model, human-machine, that will prevail for a long time.
Definitely. And just summarizing what you said, I think that's very comprehensive. It's the data itself. It's the information you're dealing with first, the application of it, how we're actually manipulating the data to serve our purposes, and then the management of it on a larger scale. I think scaling the applications of this type of data with secure information and at the levels that we're speaking about in the future. When we talk about Web3 and other applications, it's a scary thought in terms of how much is involved with that. And Ketan, sorry, I think you had wanted to say earlier, and would you mind answering that question with your thoughts?
I was going to add 2 points to that, which is
Please.
I'd say I'm not sure we have something intelligent yet. Intelligence is a very wide term, but I'm not sure it's either artificial or intelligent. Today's generation is very good at searching, structuring information, and appearing to be knowledgeable because of how it expresses itself. To get to the next level would have to be contextual. We all understand the context within which we talk to each other, and we fill in the gaps, and this is not that, so it has a long way to go for that. The third part probably is it has to have something deeply human, which is our emotions. These emotions are built from experience, and they take a long time to structure and a long time to express. But it adds something. It adds some nebulous piece of creativity, some interconnectedness. So we have a long way to go. But even what we've got today, people who are modeling this would say it's going to knock out 300 million jobs. It will raise GDP by 7%. It will generate $25 to $35 trillion of value in the next 10 years or so. So it's transformative, and we've just begun exploring what AI is. And today's AI, I think, is just a product of search and structuring of data. It's got a long way to go to be truly something transformative. How many of you actually have ChatGPT or the equivalent on your phone? You know, it's still a small percentage, right? It's still a tiny percentage, right? But, you know, if you go into it and you ask a question, if you said to it, the Israel-Palestine conflict, what's the solution? It will tell you 5 really good points. It will say a 2-state solution, you know, right of return, and it will give you 5 key points that make sense. Then if you drill it again, you say, too simplistic, be sophisticated. It will give you 5 other points, which go into religious differences, definitions of self, definitions of we, radicalization. And then if you say, is this common to both sides? It will say, of course it is, and it will explain why. So, you know, it sounds really smart, but what it's done is mine the data to present something that seems very clever. Unfortunately, it's cleverer than the median, as Sam Altman said. You know, it would demolish the human median. Luckily, this audience is only the high performers. So, you know, I'm sure you'll be fine. But it's catching up. The median rises so fast if you're equipped with this tool that we better work hard to make sure we stay ahead.
Yeah.
Definitely, and also, oh, sorry.
No, I just want to add the point that that's why education is so important. Mm-hmm. That's why everybody needs to get involved and make sure that they have an awareness, and the education and the training is absolutely critical.
Definitely, and you know, going back to your points, in terms of where the technology is now. I mean, I remember reporting about 3D printing, augmented reality back in 2010, and even today, it's only starting to become ubiquitous. You know, because my measure, I get my parameter, I guess, for it is when will Apple make a product based on that technology, and now we're just starting to see that where it can be used properly, with Google Glasses and things like that. Now we're just starting to see that implemented. Another thing about data as well is that it really reflects the human aspect of what we've put into the systems all these years. As we know, there was the case with Amazon in terms of applications that were discriminating against women when they had characteristics that described women's activities, and then that was embedded in the data that was there. And these are the types of things that we really have to look out for because, as Manoj said, it's not artificial, it's augmenting the information that's already embedded in the data. And going finally to Valerie, that's where the human talent comes in, where jobs are going to be changing. As we know, they talk about automation and AI, where 60% of jobs are going to be replaced. But that's not a scary topic. It's something where jobs are going to change in their functionality and what they need to do. And adding the humanity to data and information is very key.
Yeah, I think it will be a transition period where the boring task or the very repetitive task of jobs will change and not be done by a human, but by the machine, before the jobs itself completely disappear.
Definitely. And I'd like to go, because each of you have your own specific disciplines, with AI. I want to understand from you where are the AI applications now? We'll start with Manoj, since you had already, framed that, I think, well. Can you identify, the issues you're in the creative field, especially around creative property rights, things like that?
I think one thing that's very, very clear, IP and licensing is based on human creativity, right? I don't think any of you here today would go to a concert which had a big screen and was just playing a song that was created by AI. You want to feel the actual singer, you want to feel the talent, the musician, energy in the entire room. So we, for example, at Beacon Media, we use AI for content production, not for content creation. We are very particular about that because at the end of the day, you need to reward the creatives that have created something, that have a community around them, and that's where the Web3 kicks in. We basically ensure that there is ethical content that's created by humans for humanity with a community around them. And what we have seen go completely wrong is a lot of deep fakes, a lot of things running around today where people's content, their creativity has been stifled because of the use of AI. And once you understand how to use it, that's where the exponential value can be created. And it's about, can I go and produce 7 to 10 films? Can I reduce my costs in editing the films? Absolutely. But I'm not going to reduce my costs in creating content. That's still going to come from the human interaction that we see.
And Valerie, how about yourself? I mean, especially you're focused on gaming, a very, I'd say,
Yes.
youthful industries, when it comes to the applications.
Yeah, I mean, through Global Ventures, I invested into a lot of gaming platform, and we particularly like the one that are using generative AI to shorten the design of some experience in the metaverse and so on. And using this technology, we've managed to reduce the time of creating a metaverse experience by 30 times with Unity Unreal. So it's a major gain of productivity, major gain of efficiency. And on the other hand, I think one of the very, very promising AI field is medicine, for drug discovery or for precision medicine that is going to unfold absolutely fantastic benefits.
Definitely. And Ketan, in your field?
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say, you could say, we look at industry segments, specific verticals. So for healthcare, it's fantastic. For education, it's fantastic. For financial services, actually, it's fantastic. For all forms of research, it's fantastic. It's almost like having a colleague who is a polymath, who knows so much about every field. You could ask any question, we'll turn up with answers. You could brainstorm with that person, and they've got at their fingertips the whole of the internet and Wikipedia, and they will come up with instant answers. You could ask them to write a haiku, and if you've ever written a haiku, you know it's complex. They will write one instantly. 20 seconds later, if you say improve it, and it'll improve it. You say give them themes, it'll give you themes, and it'll just keep going.
Sure.
And so it will outstrip almost anybody who is a high performer if you know how to use it well. What I'm shocked at is how few people in the audience are actually carrying it around and using it. And I think that was probably the case when Google first came out, and there were a small subset of people using the search and then couldn't sleep because they were using it all night. I would say if you're not using it, you are going to be outstripped by people who know how to use this thing.
And sorry to cut you off, just since we only have 2 minutes left, I want to put this question to everyone, because as you mentioned about like where the technology is going, but it's still very early days. Where, I mean, Sam Altman as well, when ChatGPT came out, said that it's still confidently wrong with its answers. When you're using ChatGPT, it's still not reliable. You still need someone to manage it. But looking forward, maybe we're talking 10, 20 years, maybe you have a different outlook. But what, for example, jobs or sectors or industries do you see weaning out? I compare it to journalism, where newspapers aren't as common as they were back in the day. Once you had online, once you have social media, and where people get their information and how they interact with it is different. Where do you see AI changing the game in your respective industries or overall? Just quick 1 or 2 sentence answers, just since we have 1 minute left.
I think healthcare is going to be huge, because that's where I think the focus is on how everyone wants to live longer, everyone wants to live healthier, and I think AI is playing a huge role in that.
Yeah, I think AI, even if it's using amazing or huge resources in terms of energy, as we all know, I think AI will also be helping solving the climate change challenge. Definitely, in terms of optimization of waste, in terms of load balancing. I mean, so many areas where AI will have a huge impact in the solutions. But on the other hand, the biggest challenge at the moment is that it's using so many energy resources, and that's why
Definitely, that's a major
research is working on.
I like that, Valerie. Yeah, absolutely. So we found somebody, a woman entrepreneur, who invented something called Klee AI. It's a company. She's super smart, and changing our investment process. We could invest before, say a decade ago, and expect the investment to be okay for 10 years. That became 6 years, maybe a few years ago. And now I think they're not resilient. Every 3 years, whatever we've invested is probably going to die because something smarter is going to outstrip it. And so we're working with someone who is deeply entrenched in AI to help us look at almost everything we do to see if we can make it a little bit more resilient.
No, definitely, and I think that's the key point. It's going to keep evolving. The way you invest properly, what you invest in, as new discoveries, take place. And yeah, sorry, we're out of time, but I think that's the message, from all of this, that it's going to be constantly changing. Our expectations are going to change. How you invest, and I think that's a very interesting topic, especially ahead of COP28, where when we're talking about corporations, in ESG, meeting guidelines and things like that. This is going to play a major part because people don't even know how to do that yet. How to invest properly in AI, not only sustainably, environment-wise, but also financially. So thank you, everyone. Sorry, we didn't have
Thank you all.
Much time for questions, but I think there's so much more to talk about on this topic. Thank you again.